Good evening, and welcome to the Camp Creek Community Update for Monday, September 11th. I'm Jennifer Mislevy, Public Information Officer for Great Basin Team 1. The intent of tonight's update is to provide you a current look at the situation of the fire. That'll be provided to you by Matt Call, Operations Section Chief, Great Basin Team 1. We'll give you a 6-day weather outlook from Michael Brown, Incident Meteorologist, and then final closing words from Evans Quo, as well as a transition from Great Basin Team 1 to Pacific Northwest Team 3, Incident Commander Daniel Quinones. First, we want to give a thank you to our agency partners, our cooperators, and you, the public, for supporting us the last 2 weeks. We know that there has been intense times due to the fire situation, previous fires that have been in the area, but thank you so much for sticking with us and helping us through these times to provide you that information. It was tasked to us to provide you the most current, transparent information, and we hope we achieve that to you. But first and final, we want to give a shout out to the wildland firefighters that are on the ground. They are the ones that provided that direct support for you, helping you kind of learn some of the words and stuff that are happening with the fire. And so those are the people that we want to give a shout out to for those long, hard hours that they dedicated to help calm some of those fears that we've had in the community, as well with the fire situation, is just letting folks know what's happening out there. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt Call for the fire situation update.
Thanks, Jennifer. I don't think I need that mic. I'm Matt Call with Operations with Great Basin Team 1. If you've watched any of the videos that I've been in, you know I like the gadgets. So we're going to switch over to our electric map, and then I'll show you what's going on with the fire as we transition to the Pacific Northwest Team 3. So as a big overview, we came in to the fire as it was growing rapidly in the Bull Run watershed, and there was no containment line around the fire when we showed up. So we had to make a plan and start engaging, and luckily there was a really good road network within this watershed, which made things a lot easier because creating fire line in this heavy fuels is super difficult. If you're familiar with it at all, the amount of fuel that's out there complicates efforts. So we used this established road network and we just widened it out using some machines, and then we created some fire lines in places where the roads didn't connect where we wanted it to. So I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like up close. We're at 35% containment, and that doesn't sound like much, but it's actually really good, because what containment means is that means our confidence level of the fire crossing that line is really, our confidence in the fire not crossing the line is really high. Sorry. So that means if this is black, there's a low chance that the fire will cross that line. But we have had, as we call, boots on the ground almost all the way around the fire. So all of this edge where I'm showing you with my fingers has had people on the edge of it, which is more than 50% of the fire. So just because it isn't showing contained doesn't mean we haven't addressed that edge and put some containment line and been up close to the edge of the fire. Just on this eastern side, we have a couple of really difficult drainages. Those are the only edges where we haven't actually been up on the edge of the fire. We've had people scouting out and looking at it. We don't have a lot of growth. We've looked at our infrared camera. I'll show you what those images look like. So we're pretty confident this isn't going to grow rapidly. We still need to address it, but we are comfortable with the time frames that we have now. So I'm going to go around the fire and kind of show you what's going on in all these different areas, and then we'll tell you what the long term is going to look like. Along where this is black, this is a road that's been widened out, and we have good containment line along here that we've put in multiple days ago, and right now crews are just mopping that up, spraying the ground with water, kind of digging in the dirt and making sure that everything smoldering is going out. Where we've got a little bit of red edge, this will turn black here shortly. If you remember a couple days ago, we actually burned along this road where we've prepped it, and in about a day or two, that will show contained as well. So there's some hazard trees coming down that we're clearing off the road, and then some crews are going in there with hose lines, and they're mopping that up. So that again will show contained here shortly. Moving around in a clockwise motion. This is not a road, so we had to kind of create a fire line, and that's made with machines or crews digging a hand line, and there's a mixture of that. That's why the M is there. Right now, they're improving that line, and they're mopping it up, meaning they have hose lines in there Cleaning that up, probably another 2 or 3 days before that will turn into what we consider a good contained line. That connects to this black edge here where that road is. That's been contained for a few days now. We're comfortable. That's nice and cold. A little bit of patrolling and mop up happening along that road. It's kind of hard to see, but this little spot here, this fire was moving a little bit to the northeast. We've put a little bit of line there, a little bit of check line that's kind of prevented any spread to the northeast on that. And we might continue to do that as this grows, but there's not a lot of heat, and that allows us to sort of stay ahead of this movement and still be connected to the road system there. And we have our big open, our road network, which is all improved road that we can use as a containment line as needed. And as we circle back around here, we come back to touching the fire edge, where we have, as we say, boots on the ground, and all this H denotes that we have hand line in there. There is containment line there. It's just not contained, meaning there's still a little bit more heat there than what we're comfortable with in actually painting the edge black. Probably another day or so before that's all black, and what we call the second eyebrow, because it's sort of shaped like an eyebrow. Back over to the first eyebrow, that is all contained, and that has line all along the edge of it, right there. So the road system is out here, gets us good access to that line, but hand crews are out there just chunking away through those heavy fuels. And then the last piece of our puzzle here is this piece of hand line here. It's kind of a steep drainage going down there, so they're patrolling that on an as-needed basis. That will probably turn black maybe tomorrow or the next day. But it's got good secure line, and we're going in there a couple of times a day. It's a pretty high snag hazard area, so they're just going in there as needed, but we're comfortable that that fire won't progress to the west, which means, in the big picture, that the chance of the fire moving down drainage toward the headworks facility and toward the reservoir and more into the watershed is super, super low. So that's kind of a big win for us and sets the next team up for a success. I'm going to switch to the Google map and kind of show you what the infrared looks like, because I think it tells a good story and I think it looks really cool. So we'll fly in here and look at the edge. Still have a little bit of heat along here where they're mopping up. But what is interesting is this drainage down here where we don't have line. You can see what the terrain looks like and where we have some complex steep terrain where it's really hard to justify putting a crew in there and too steep for equipment to work. So that's kind of the problem spots we have right now. But the good thing is there's not a lot of heat there and not a lot of fire growth. So those are kind of those drainages right there. I'm going to zoom back out so you kind of know where we're at. All right. With that, we'll pass it on to the next speaker. Hopefully this was informative for you, and thanks for being with us and giving us your attention.
Thank you, Michael Brown. I'm the incident meteorologist on the Camp Creek fire. So today we are a little bit cooler, a little bit more humid than we were this past weekend. That's due to a frontal system that moved through today and will continue to slowly move through tomorrow. Brought us a little bit more cloud cover that kept temperatures down, humidity up a little bit. But as we head into later this week, upper level ridging is going to start to build across this area and amplify, or what is getting stronger. So the weather matrix here, for fire weather, we talk about hot, dry, windy conditions today. We're not going to be hot, dry, windy at all. We're going to be cool, humid, no wind really. And you see a lot more greens here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But as we progress later in the week, we start to see a few more yellows, a few more reds. And that's due to that upper level ridging that we do expect to amplify. For context, the climatological average for the fire area is about 70 degrees for highs, about 50 degrees for lows. And by the end of the week, we're talking about temperatures getting up into the 80s, maybe even mid 80s. So looking at 10 to 15 degrees above average for this time of year. And I do want to draw your attention to one more thing. The wind. We do expect a little bit of a northeast wind or a light northeast flow for Thursday night, Friday into Saturday morning. Now, we typically do get 2 moderate to strong northeast wind events every September. This is not going to be one of them. This is just a light northeast wind. Then after this weekend, we actually do expect a cooler weather to return. So, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, and good evening. Evans Quo with Incident Commander for Great Basin Team 1. So as Jennifer had mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, our time on this the Camp Creek fire is coming to a close, and so we've been focusing our attention today on ensuring that we do a seamless transition with our replacement incident management team, which is Pacific Northwest Team 3. I guess you might ask, why are we having to go through a transition with another team, especially after we've been able to build a wonderful relationship with this community. It's because we have some length assignment and work rest guidelines within the fire service that we have to follow, and it's mostly there for safety reasons. We do tend to work some long hours when we're on these incidents, and after a couple weeks, you start to, that cumulative fatigue starts coming into play. So we want to ensure that the decisions that we're making on your behalf are the best possible decisions and sound. And we already extended by a week to begin with. So we're out for a total of 3 weeks on this incident. We came from another one in Washington before we came here. So, but with that, I think it's very clear from looking at the weather meteorologist report and also looking at historical climatology that we could very well have at least anywhere from 20 to 40 days of fire season left. And in response to that concern, or the potential of that, the Mountain Hood National Forest, Oregon Department of Forestry, and Bureau of Land Management had opted to bring in a replacement incident management team. They're identical in complexity and skill level and training to our team. And they will be able to serve you folks for the next 2 weeks in the event that this fire continues to grow, continues to cause problems. And then they'll be able to continue all the same efforts that we started. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Dan Quinones, the Incident Commander for Pacific Northwest Team 3.
Thanks, Evans, and good evening, everybody. As was said, my name is Dan Quinones, Incident Commander with Pacific Northwest Team 3, and by name, we are a Pacific Northwest team primarily comprised of folks from Oregon and Washington. So you're going to see some new faces. You're obviously going to see some new names. One thing you're not going to see that's different for the most part, however, is going to be the actions on the ground that Evans just mentioned and the operations folks briefed to. Now, why I say that they're not going to be the exact same, they might be similar, is because it is our job with any incident management team to seek out efficiencies. It's a very dynamic environment that these fires are in. Each day is a little bit different. The weather's going to change slightly as we move towards a season-ending event, which, as Evans mentioned, could be another 20 to 40 days out. But with each day that progresses, the chances for success in a season-ending event get a little bit closer. So we're going to keep a close eye on this fire. We're going to maintain the momentum that's been provided with this team, Great Basin Team 1, and ensure that the communities, you all watching, have the most accurate, up-to-date, and transparent information. We definitely want to be open and honest with you folks, good news and bad, and we'll get ahead of that and maintain the momentum, like I said, that's been provided so far. So I appreciate your time. Have a great evening.